Hello, my name is Margaret and welcome to my artsy corner of the internet. I am playing around a little bit with setup, so I'm trying to get some better audio visual quality here. Let me know how it's going. Today we are back with more K-pop reactions. I say we just get straight into it. My computer is already overheating and we've barely done anything, so this is great. Today I thought we'd start out with watching Run BTS, because this came out a while ago and I don't know where I was, possibly underneath a rock or something, because I did not know that it came out. But I'm very excited to see it because, you know. Anyway, so this is Run BTS and this is their dance practice. Already they're in costume, which I love. Already the synchronization of the backup dancers is amazing. I feel like this is a very different style than what they're usually, or what they have been doing. It's a little bit more grungy. It feels super thrashy, but also they're still very much in sync, even though it feels very casual. Ooh, I like the little wrist moment. Did the backup dancers just pull their bandanas over their face? That's kind of amazing. Kind of love that. Although that also feels slightly dangerous. How are they seeing? I have a lot of questions. I'm always down for a good prop. They make all of this look very, very simple. It's not. I feel like so many, like the iconic moves in this piece could look so stupid if they're performed wrong, but they're not. Oh. They all just stripped. I want to know how many times all of these props just ended up going terribly wrong, because I know that they had to have gone wrong many times. There's so much big, hard-hitting movement, but their footwork is so clean and precise. I'm just always so impressed. I'm always so impressed by how much energy they put into all of their movements. Like, it would be very easy to do all of those movements with half of the energy that they do. But they're always just, as we call it in the dance world, full out with feeling. There's something so impactful about having a large number of dancers in unison. In the concert dance world, that there's been a huge emphasis on not doing unison. I think of people like Alonzo Lines. They have dancers and almost none of their pieces are in unison, so it's 10 different dancers doing 10 different things on stage, and I feel like that's definitely been a trend. Maybe not in commercial dance, but definitely in concert dance. There's something just always so powerful about having a large number of people on stage doing the same thing, and I feel like that opening sequence with all their backup dancers right there is already so powerful, just for the pure fact that, like, there's a bunch of dancers all together moving to music. I didn't even realize that he jumped over somebody's head there. So that happened. I think I was so excited about that opening because I feel like the musicality, the strength, the backup dancers being in front, and so you just get a peek of BTS in the back. You're kind of like, oh, what's gonna come? It's great to build up anticipation, to have a bunch of people blocking BTS in the beginning, and then they open up, and then starting out with such a big movement, like throwing somebody over the top of somebody else. It's a great kind of reveal of BTS in the back. I did not notice that the first time because I think I just got so excited about the unison at the beginning, but I think that's more because I'm a dance nerd, and so I don't think I watch dance the same as other people watch dance, because I get really excited about random things that I probably should not be getting excited about. I'm a big fan of lifts. I think that they always just look really cool, and I think the secret really about lifts is that so often it's not about brute strength of, oh my gosh, you can lift up a person, but it really is the relationship between the person being lifted and the person lifting them, and finding this connection both with timing and also with just understanding the other person's momentum and body language and strength, and that kind of connection of two people's skills and dance abilities working together is what makes a lift possible, not necessarily that like there's just brute strength involved. For example, Jungkook just went over the top, and I believe that his head was being, I believe he was being supported underneath the shoulder. Yeah, so you can kind of see here where I paused it. Maybe not. One of the things that's really helpful with lifts like this is for the person who's being lifted to depress their scapula. I believe that's what it means, which basically just means like imagine your hand is on a table and you're just pressing down into it with your shoulder. I don't know, maybe it sounds counterintuitive if you're lifting somebody, but to press down into the people who are lifting you up, it actually provides them with a stronger base and it makes it easier to go up and over. It does look like his shoulder is a little bit up on his right side, which could lead to injury in the future, especially if this was being repeated like a lot. That could potentially be problematic in the future. But yeah, anyway, I love a good lift. I think that this choreography is doing a really good job architecturally with the backup dancers, of framing whoever's singing in a really satisfying way without overpowering the main dancer at that point. They're all kind of doing the same movement style or the same movement vocabulary. I'm thinking mostly of like this point on the diagonal. And one of the ways that they're highlighting BTS is by allowing the backup dancers to be very clean and uniform, and then whoever is being soloed in the moment has a little bit more freedom with how they add personality and play with the movement. So although the movement is the same, that extra layer of like sauce on top is different. So like all the backup dancers are French fries. BTS is like a French fry, but they get a dipping sauce on the side. I love how big they take the movements. I can see how this choreography could be done by somebody else and look vastly different. All of those movements could have been done very small and it would not have given off the same amount of energy because they're taking all of these movements to what we would call like a far kinesphere, so like far away from their body. It's allowing for so much power to come from their movements. It's so delightful to watch and probably so difficult to do. I'm sorry, that movement where they're all in a line and their little hands just come out, I swear that movement is used in like every dance ever. It is one of the most probably overused visuals in dance to have like a line of people perpendicular to the camera and have their arms come out. But it never gets old. It doesn't matter how many times I see that done. I just, every single time I'm like, do it again. It's so satisfying, especially here because they are changing the architecture of the space. And by architecture of the space, I mean really how the backup dancers are framing whoever's being spotlighted, and also how people are coming in and out of the space. Because they're changing around that architecture so much, it's a very overwhelming piece, and not in a bad way, just it's overwhelming because there's a lot happening and a lot changing. Those little moments of not even realizing that there are like 3 people behind, I forgot who was in the front, and then seeing the arms come out, it's shocking because they've overwhelmed our senses so much that when they throw in moves like that could be seen as like cookie cutter, we've seen it before, they're all of a sudden very shocking because of the way that the dance transitioned into and out of it. That duet, I'm sorry, I'm pausing it a lot. I'm trying to point out everything that's happening, but there's so much happening. That duet does a really great job of accentuating the negative space around the bodies. I feel like I'm using so many dance buzzwords, but negative space is basically everywhere where your body isn't. So hang on, gotta put down the microphone for a second. If my arm is here in choreography, the negative space is everything where my body is not. And so when you play with the negative space of your body, you're trying to figure out everywhere that you can go. My shoulder is very poppy today, apparently. But you're trying to figure out all of the places that you can go where your body isn't, essentially. And it's sometimes used as like a choreographic. Choreography is one of like the worst words because choreography and choreographer are like said different. So if you accidentally start saying choreographer, there's no way to escape mid-word if you start saying it wrong. So, but as a choreographer, oh my gosh, now I forgot how to say the word. As a choreographer, you can use it as a game to help you create new movement. So instead of creating something or using a move that already exists in the dance vocabulary, you can create your own movement by giving yourself a task that isn't associated with the more stereotypical dance moves that we think of. Their movements are really big and wide, and they're also very legible, and that is also because they have like a lot of negative space around their body. They know how to show the move that they're doing very clearly, and it's wide and it's readable, and that makes it look really cool on a small screen. But also when they're going around and they're in these big arenas for tours, the people in like the nosebleeds can also visually see what's happening because the dance moves are big enough that it is legible from even far away. Anyway, but the duet that just happened, they did a really good job of playing together and filling up the negative space of each other's body. There's one moment, there's a swipe over the top of the head and drawing attention to everywhere where the other dancer is not. It gives them both space to breathe within the duet so that we can see what's happening with both of the dancers instead of them just becoming a jumbled blob in front of us because they're too close and they're trying to move in the same area. I don't know if any of this is making sense. I'm just getting really excited. I'm sorry, I'm going to stop it again. It just, even the little walks across the front of the stage, there's so much clarity and personality added into them that you're just sitting there and you're like, I want to do that with you. I want to watch just that for the rest of the piece because there's so much intention with every movement that they do. They don't forget about any of them. There's no throwaway steps here, which again, it's very admirable. The texture that they play with within individual moves is also really nice. This one, nope, wait. That little da 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 da. It's so ba ba, very short, staccato, precise, and ba. And the way that they accent those different movements, and I mean, it's literally like 1 second of the dance, but there's already so many textures and colors added into that one little movement that there's just so much dynamic within a single movement. And then you put it into a very dynamic choreography, and then you take that dynamic choreography and add like 20 people to the mix with dynamic structural architecture of dancers and formations, and then that's how you get such a sense of this overwhelming choreography. And then it takes that knowledge of like negative space and legibility and cleanliness of dance to make all of that is overwhelming legible and clear and exciting. They're adding a lot of textures, but all the textures are clean and together. If this dance was not as clean, and if they weren't as clear on the textures and on the goals of all the movements, and if they were dancing smaller with less energy, it would very quickly become just a chaotic piece where you're just watching people fly around the stage and you're just like, I don't even know what's happening. But because they take the time to be very clean and very big and legible, and when I say clean, I mean like clean within their own body and their own movement, but also clean together where they all know where they're supposed to be at what time, and they know the movements and they're together. That's what makes this piece super powerful. I don't know why I'm thinking of like an abstract painting like Jackson Pollock or something, where there's so much paint just splattered all over the canvas, and it's really chaotic and you're not really quite sure where to look, but it's really beautiful. Compared to like if I tried to make an abstract painting, all of the colors might like bleed together and just make like a gross like poop color in the end, and like that wouldn't be pretty. So kind of the difference between like chaotic good and chaotic evil, basically. Chaotic clean versus chaotic messy. Maybe that's the new choreographic meme chart. Those arms were really fun. The little when they lean back and just roll their wrists a little bit. I think it's a very chill, casual move to slip into a piece that is so fast, so big, and so thrashy. They're throwing a lot of their movements, like literally throwing their limbs. I think I've talked about this probably in their on dance, is that sometimes to move this quickly and this large, you kind of just have to like throw the limb and hope it comes back to you. I think that's very similar with this choreography as well. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, but contrasting that just for a hot second with all of this huge chaotic movement to just have such a groovy, slow breath in there is a great reprieve, revision, I don't know, for us as an audience, because then we're like, okay, we can breathe before it happens again. But it also makes that move stand out because it is in such contrast to the other textures that we've been seeing. Because although there's a lot of textures, a lot of the textures are very, I don't want to say harsh in like a bad way, but they are like, they're kind of harsh and thrashy and intense. And then that one is very chill. So it's a polar opposite, which draws your attention. I love the musicality of the backup dancers at this part too. It's really nice. They're all together, and I mean, they're obviously very clean and all together, even though they can't see, which is crazy. The attention to detail by the backup dancers is really nice to see. They're clearly professionals. They know what they're doing. It almost feels like BTS is just like a little, I don't know, like dolphin in just a sea. It's like a sea of dancers just moving and flowing, and then there's just like bloop. And it's also a great way to spotlight. This is a really grounded piece. So I think one of the reasons why it has this quality and texture is because their knees are constantly bent, but not just are they bent, but they're really probably feeling the ground and their weight going into the ground in like a rooting sensation, which helps keep balance. It helps you conserve energy, all these different things, but it also gives the whole dance like a heavier, grounded feeling because their center of gravity is slightly lower. Dance things. What was I going to also say? Oh yeah, but I think what I've also noticed is a lot of the movements are surprisingly simple, but I think what's making it really interesting to watch is the amount of added like accessorization that is happening with their upper bodies. Their shoulders and their chests are just wiggling and moving all over the place, which is so lovely to see. But yeah, there's so much happening with the upper body that is adding a really nice dressing or sauce to the movements that, again, if you turn down the volume on what they were doing performance wise and personality wise, I think the base level of the dance really would be I don't want to call it super simple, but it's not like they're doing head spins or back flips or all these things. It's a lot of footwork. It is fast, and I'm not saying it's easy. It would be hard, but I think it would look surprisingly simple to our eyes if you turn down the volume. I think it's the added upper body and head and personality that is adding this allure of virtuosity and making you look at the steps and being like, I could never do that in a million years. But it's not necessarily because the steps are impossible or really difficult, but what they're adding on top of it and that performance quality is what is really difficult. At least I think that's true. I don't know, maybe I'm gonna like rewatch this again and be like, oh, actually these steps are really hard. But that's my initial impression. Okay, I might take back a little bit of what I said. That footwork, the footwork is really challenging. Maybe me saying it was simple was not the correct wording, but there's a lot of footwork, and I think the footwork is more attainable than what it might look like. But then they're turning up and amping up the volume of that footwork so much. I wonder if the person who choreographed this has house experience. I mean, I'm assuming it feels a little bit more like house hip hop inspired. Again, I'm not like the expert in hip hop. I definitely have so much more to learn in that realm. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels to be house inspired. House is a specific commercial hip hop kind of style that was developed in Chicago, I believe, and it really has an emphasis on footwork. That's kind of, I would say, like the the basis of it, and it's very fast, very cool. And another main point is they have this upper body groove called a jack, and you kind of do this, and then there's a lot of footwork, and obviously there's a lot more to the technique than just that. It's kind of giving a similar vibe to this, I think. But yeah, you should definitely check out house dancing if you've never heard of it before. Some of the people who do it are just amazing. I feel like this is not the first time that BTS has used clothing or jackets as a prop. And I know I just recently said this in a video, but working with clothing or hair or jackets during a dance it's like you forget how to be a human being sometimes when you're on stage, and then they're like, and then take off your jacket, and you're like, what? I'm a dancer. I only know how to turn. It's so smooth and also very creative. Like, I did not expect when this whole piece started with the bandanas and the sweatshirts, I did not expect it to get to the point where like they're taking them off and using them as props. I think that's super creative, and again, it's adding another layer of entertainment onto a piece, which I think is so important. Of costuming and dancers and music and all these things are compounding to make this very entertaining piece. And I think it's one of the reasons why BTS has such an impact with a lot of their performances, is because they really are emphasizing all of the different aspects of the performance. They're emphasizing the dance and the music and the lighting and the staging and the costuming. And when you really give weight and importance to all the different elements of a performance, it's hard to not make it be impactful, because you're giving 100% to everything involved. And I think it just shows a lot of love and care for the craft and for the audience and the performance as well. And I think that's just one of my favorite things, is when you can tell that artists take time to care about every little detail. Again, just talking about the architecture and how they're framing BTS, it's so good. You know, we're also talking about clothing just because of the use of clothing as a prop in this piece, but I also think that them all in, that's not a sentence, but the fact that they're all wearing baggy clothing, I don't know, I feel like the clothing that you wear really helps you embody like the character of whatever dance style you're doing. So I know if I go to ballet class and I'm not wearing something like skin tight, I do not dance as well, which, you know, it's like my same body. It should be able to do the same thing. But when I'm wearing like the uniform of a ballet dancer, I do ballet better. And when I'm wearing like the uniform of a contemporary dancer, I can do contemporary better. I don't know, if you're trying to learn this dance and you're like, it's just not feeling right, have you tried wearing like a bed sheet? Have you tried wearing something that's really oversized, like an old t-shirt where it has weight, but it's still flowy enough that it moves around? I don't know. I just think that movement of clothing and fabric also helps compute something in your brain. Accessorization in fashion is important. Sorry, I'm stopping this so much. I feel like that little like step tap is just one of those examples of how the choreography isn't necessarily super difficult. I'm pretty sure everybody watching this video could do that movement in some form, but the way that they do it, the musicality, the personality that they put into it, elevates it to a whole new level. And I don't say that in like any kind of negative, like, oh, BTS's choreography isn't hard enough. Like, clearly it's hard enough. But I don't know, if you're a dancer and you're like, oh, I don't have as much training, I haven't been doing this as long, like, there are ways that you can take very simple steps and elevate them to a level of being super impressive just because of the way that you embody them. And to never forget that, yes, being able to do really difficult steps is fun, it's great, you should work on that, but also learning how to take simpler steps and elevating them through your own personal gifts and creativity and personality is a super important element to dance, and to not overlook that. I love that step. I want to be able to do it. Yeah, I think also one of the reasons why this feels so high energy is because their feet have not stopped moving this whole time. I'm sure their thighs and calves are a burnin'. Oh, I guess the piece is called Run, so that's probably why their feet are moving the whole time, right? Oh my gosh. This is only my second watch through of this, so I'm sure I missed so many things that I'm gonna like watch this back and be like, how did I miss this? It's always such a joy. I always thoroughly enjoy watching these big productions that they put on, even if they are like practice videos and they're not necessarily like performing. It's amazing how much that they can do. And I'm going to try to figure out how to do that one move because I really want to learn how to do it. You know, like the da 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 da. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon, and bye.